It's football. I've been watching it for 40 years.
Are you kidding me?
You're listening to Winning Cures Everything.
Game day, baby. Wake up or get out.
Here's your host,
a confident young man, a superb athlete,
Gary Seegers.
Yes, we are back aboard. It is already week 10. It is already November for this Saturday. Now, technically, we're still in Locktober as the show debuts right before Halloween on Three Dog Thursday. Man, oh man, oh man. It's going to get good now. We're down the home stretch in the month of November towards everything that's going to happen. It is Three Dog Thursday. We're part of the Winning Cures Everything family on their platform on YouTube. Thank you, Gary Seegers, once again, winningcureseverything.com. We're also on podcast. If you're only hearing us, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify on podcast, come see what we look like on the Winning Cures Everything platform. Just search Three Dog Thursday on YouTube. You'll find us. I am the somewhat competent host, TJ Rives. Hello to my wingman, Jason Powers, back aboard here from the Tampa Bay area. Good to be back with you. We should disclose to the audience, you and I have already chased a golf ball or a couple of golf balls or 2 or 3 sleeves of golf balls in and around a golf course on Tuesday in Tampa, going over what games we might pick and predict. So we were doing a little pre-show meeting out on the links, my friend. Good to be back with you here a little later on in the week.
You look like Roy McAvoy on the 18th hole yesterday with that fairway wood within about 6 feet on the last shot of the day for you.
Except, unlike Tin Cup, I didn't knock it in for the punchline on the finale scene of the movie, the climax of the movie. I did hit it close. Those are the kind of shots that make you want to come back and play 18 more. So we had fun with that. Thank you again to everybody finding us as the audience continues to stay strong and rock on. Again, Gary lets us cohabitate here as we talk underdogs simply to cover. The doggies do not have to win. Dogs simply to cover. We ended up having a 2-4 week last week on the show. We'll get into that as we go along. I know Jason is hiding his eyes. One thing is we've got to keep you away from Brett Bielema in Illinois. Been on the wrong side every time of Illinois, either taking them or going against them. You are banned from Illinois for the rest of the year. I'm imposing that on you here on the program. And also Brian Kelly and LSU. We'll get to this in a few moments. I understood why you were backing them. It was a stand your ground type moment at home in Baton Rouge.
They're winning at halftime.
And they're winning the game, and then the second half happened, and it was just bad. So again, as we rock on here on the program, we don't shy away from this on Three Dog Thursday. Here is the record, 2-4 last week against the spread, 29-24-1 on the season for the pod audience that's not seeing the video. Now, I will mention I had a 2-1 week last week. The host is 7-2 the last 3 weeks. The host is 19-8 on the season. So you chuckleheads that think that I don't know anything about what I'm talking about, look on the video screen right down below. It's actually right over. Powers, you got it. You can point directly down to it. Look under the parentheses right there. Show me other people that have picked 27 games and got 19 of them right so far this college football season. That's pretty good winning.
And all underdogs at that.
And all dogs here in this situation. We love the pooches, some of them outright, including, did I say outright?
Earning his money.
I am. Did I say outright underdog from last week? Go Tigers, go. Very quiet in my household with Mrs. Rives, whom I will have been married to 30 years come this May. She's used to it now that Memphis seems to always get the better of USF, and it happened again with a 14-point fourth quarter comeback. Now, full disclosure to the Winning Cures audience and the Three Dog Thursday podcast audience. Again, I was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneer charter airplane headed to New Orleans for the Bucs-Saints game while the second half was unfolding with this, and it was not looking good because these guys were putting it on them, Jason Powers. But that's why you play a 60-minute game. That's the reason why you don't doubt Brendan Smith and the weapons he has. 14-point comeback, and I know you're ready to 3-2-1 blast off on Alex Golish, the USF coach, for some of what he did.
I mean, give you full credit for the outright win and cover, but that was a colossal coaching malpractice game by Alex Golish. You're up 7 points. Was it early fourth quarter, 4th and 3 or 4? Wasn't like it was 4th and 1. 4th or 3 and 4 on like the 6-7 yard line, and you go for it, don't make it. You give Memphis momentum. If you kick a field goal, you're up 10 points with 12 minutes to go or whatever the time was. You have to do that. I know you're a guy that professes we go for it, we're aggressive, but when you're reckless and you have a team that can go to the college football playoff, kick the field goal.
Yeah, and it wasn't everything, but that was a big moment.
Huge.
Momentum turning. And then Memphis began to get on a roll offensively. Obviously, Brandon Lewis answered the questions about the injured ankle and played brilliantly in the second half of the game, in the fourth quarter of the game. And you feel bad for this. I've known the Gramatica family. Martin Gramatica, the Buccaneers Super Bowl kicker, his brothers Bill and Santiago were big-time college kickers. Bill also kicked in the NFL. Santiago won several huge games for South Florida back in the mid-2000s with last-second kicks, a couple of overtime kicks. So I know all the Gramaticas, and I was never going to hear the end of it if Nico had tied that game up and they had won the game. But Nico, unfortunately, didn't make the kick, and Memphis gets the win. Now, they could end up playing again, Jason, you know this, in the American Conference Championship game. It's a round robin right now with USF, Tulane, Navy, and Memphis that still has to play out. Stay tuned. Stay tuned on what happens for the American Conference, and the top two teams will play in the title game with the number one team hosting that title game. So now not all is decided there at the moment. So that is part of last week, and I won't wear the Memphis hat for the remainder of this week, even though they are playing Rice on Friday night. Rice, a significant underdog at home. Don't slip up, Memphis. Don't slip up, Ryan Silverfield and Sutton Smith and those Memphis Tigers on the road in Houston this weekend, because that sets up the Tulane game next week on Friday night, which could be a very large game in the American Conference race coming up. Hey, let's pick back up with Brian Kelly and this whole situation from last week with LSU. They've now fired him since you and I were last here. I can't say that's surprising. They fell apart in the second half of the game. And now LSU is part of this just bananas coaching carousel that's about to go on, trying to find a head coach.
The governor's involved, pulling the strings. The governor apparently was
it's unreal.
Saturday night.
He was at the game, and he was saying he was sending social media messages after the game, Landry, Jeff Landry, that, hey, what are they doing raising ticket prices after this kind of performance for LSU last week to get blown away by Texas A&M? And it turns out the most prominent boosters were going around suite to suite to suite at Tiger Stadium in the fourth quarter as all the Tiger fans were emptying out and taking up the collection essentially on how we're going to work out this buyout. Who's going to pay what to get rid of Brian Kelly? Wild story. And LSU now back open again, as was the case when they fired Ed Orgeron 4 years ago. Wild for LSU. And I know you had them, and it seemed like a good spot. I was backing you that this is a spot where you take a stand, but as it turns out, his team just didn't play for him in the second half and didn't get it done.
Terrible special teams job. You punted to the guy, and the guy runs a punt back. That was the backbreaker to me, was the punt return. It was an offensive game, and that offensive line, those two tackles for LSU were abhorrently bad. I don't know what's going on there. How are you at LSU and don't have two competent tackles?
Right.
Gus Meyer continues to underperform. Again, I know he's got beaten up this year, hit a lot, but man, some of the decision making and some of that stuff, and again, just you could tell middle of the third quarter it was lights out in Baton Rouge, man. But give Elko credit. That's a championship team.
I was just going right there with Marcel Reed at quarterback. Their defense is good. Yep. And A&M demonstrating. And by the way, and we're going to get to the picks, people, I promise. Let's don't let the athletic director, Scott Woodward, escape either. He is the guy that right now looks like a total clown for the deal that they gave and negotiated with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, and then allowed Fisher to have a guaranteed buyout of all the remainder of his contract, which is $60 or $70 million that Texas A&M's got to figure out, unless Jimbo starts coaching again, by the way. There's a stipulation.
Please.
And this same AD goes to LSU. He leaves A&M And in the last couple of years, he gives Brian Kelly that contract.
10 years.
So
he's only responsible for $130 million of buyout money. Scott Woodward, 130.
Why do I get the feeling he won't be the AD? Maybe not right now, but like after this academic year, it might be bye-bye to him as well for these deals. We'll see. We'll see what LSU.
There's one name that might save him.
The
man up in Oxford, Mississippi.
Lane.
That could be the guy.
Everybody's trying to get on the Lane train, but can I tell you, I don't think he's leaving Ole Miss. Maybe for the NFL, but I don't think he's leaving Ole Miss for Florida, for LSU. I don't buy the Nick Saban stuff coming back out of retirement and out of the broadcast booth either.
No chance.
You don't buy that?
No chance.
But you think Lane Kiffin, you would put Lane Kiffin what, at 50-50 to maybe be the LSU coach, or less than that? 25%? What would you put it at?
They're going to make him, like Florida is, they're going to make him say no. They're going to offer him a boatload of money and make him say no. If you're Lane Kiffin, if you make the playoff this year, does that say I've done all I can do? Or where's Lane in his head? Comfort level, lifestyle, family life. That's the part we don't know, because he's got a great family life in Oxford. No pressure.
Sure.
He's going to be a hero there for as long as he stays. But can you really win a national title at Ole Miss? I don't think you can.
In an expanded playoff, though, you've got more access now.
You can make it, but can you win it all?
Yeah, we'll see on that. All right, let's get to the underdog predictions. Enough about last week and what all we saw from last week and some of these biggest moments. And again, openings at places like Penn State and Florida and LSU and UCLA and Oklahoma State and on and on and on. And there's more to come. It's not over yet for the coaching carousel. All right, so speaking of the coaching carousel, speaking of an interim coach situation, Billy Napier fired now a week and a half ago as we come your way on Three Dog Thursday. And are you going to the Don't Call It the World's Largest Outdoor Cocktail Party anymore in Jacksonville for Florida, Georgia, circa 2025? Is that where you're headed for the first Underdog, Jason?
I am starting there. This is not a home state allegiance either. I have no ties to Florida. This is just a game where, again, I get the sense that the Florida family, the football program, maybe has some relief now. All the controversy, all the rumors about Willie and Winnie and what point will he be let go? He's been let go. They've had a week and a half to kind of marinate on this. You've heard, Billy Gonzalez talk about the offensive style of play might be a little different, which to me says more wide open, more four wide receivers, old ball coach back in the day.
Right.
Spurrier Jr. has been brought out of the office to kind of help DJ Lagway. Who knows what that'll do? I just think you're going to see a little bit freer Florida team. The other part of this equation is Georgia has gotten off to some slow starts. Ole Miss went up and down the field. Alabama bombarded them in the first half. Give Georgia credit; they've stabilized in the second half and got the job done, except for not against Alabama. But I worry about Georgia coming out of the gates. I think Florida's going to be amped up for this game. 7.5, 2 scores gives me excitement as well. And if you remember last year, Florida was putting it to Georgia before DJ Lagway got hurt.
Yeah.
So Lagway got hurt. The game turned a little bit. Georgia won the game. I just think this is going to be a game. This is always a pretty close game a lot of times. I just think the 7.5, the hook, might be the difference here. Give me Florida plus the 7.5.
It's interesting that this series has fluctuated back and forth. Georgia on a 4-game win streak right now with Kirby Smart, but didn't Urban Meyer won like 7 or 8 games in a row against Georgia. So the series has kind of gone back and forth in the 2000s a little bit. Urban Meyer seemed to own Mark Richt in the series for sure. Again, massive game in the state where we are and in the state of Georgia. It's been a traditional rivalry game for 60 years practically. So 3:30 on ABC for Saturday for Florida. And will they look differently with the interim coach? We've seen 2 or 3 of these situations with the interim coach, and that's what you're talking about with Billy Gonzalez. Maybe that's the X factor here for the Gators.
Just a one-time. I don't think this is going to be a long-term bump. I think this is a one-time first game. Again, if you don't think Billy Gonzalez ain't going to run a couple trick plays, something out of the norm, you're crazy, because this is his one. Again, he ain't getting the job, but this is his opportunity to put his imprint on this rivalry and at Florida. Remember, he's been at Florida a long time. I think he worked for Billy or for Urban Meyer back in the day, and then came back and worked for Napier here.
And it's not as if Florida doesn't have skill players.
Yeah.
We know this with Dallas Wilson and the running backs. And so stay tuned. Again, Georgia has been good, although Georgia's played some knockdown, drag-out games with Tennessee, with Auburn. Alabama obviously beat them. So it's not as if they're invincible here. And yeah, they won the wild game with Ole Miss that was high scoring. So Jason says take the Gators. There's a 7.5 out there a couple of places on Thursday. And again, we remind you, if the line goes up or down after Thursday, we don't have any control over that. It's what is it on Thursday for the underdogs that we're taking in college football. All right, so let's move on. You went SEC right away. I'm going to go ACC. My first underdog comes up at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. local time at Gerald R. Ford Stadium. Gerald R. Ford, the former President Stadium at SMU. Ponies and the Miami Hurricanes. Okay, so for Miami, they suffered the loss a couple of weeks ago to Louisville on the Friday night. They looked like they still had some hangover, Jason Powers, in the first half with Stanford. They trailed 7-0 right away. The game only 7-7 at the half. To the credit of Mario Cristobal and his staff, they made halftime adjustments. They had the better talented team. Stanford came all the way across the country. They poured it on them in the second half and pulled away. So now we go to SMU, a team that beat Clemson back in their last game. Clemson without Cade Klubnik at quarterback, but Kevin Jennings threw the ball well. He's got a couple of different targets to throw the ball well. They're at home. Rhett Lashley is a name to keep an eye on for some of these other jobs. He's the former Auburn offensive coordinator. He's the former Miami offensive coordinator, and he's now the SMU head coach. I think this is too many points early at home. Give me your take on Miami with a lot of points laying at SMU.
And you forgot to mention last week, Mario Cristobal ran it up on Frank Reich at the end, blasting in the cover touchdown with about 30 seconds to go in the game. That Frank Reich was not very pleased about in the post-game handshake. So run it up to cover the over-under and to cover the number for Mario last week.
And by the way, the 83rd example in the last few years, they absolutely all know the lines. They know the spread, even in real time while the game's going on. There's another example. Continue on this one.
No, this is this is a spot here. Again, SMU did lose last week at Wake Forest, 13-12. But again, they are capable. We all thought this game 6-7 weeks ago was potentially a stumbling block for Miami. They've already stumbled against Louisville. This is one where you cannot stumble if you're Mario. Again, you mentioned they struggled last week in the first half against Stanford. SMU is capable. Kevin Jennings is a good player on the road in Dallas. Again, I like the pick here. I think 12.5 is too many here.
Yeah, and again, Wake Forest beat them in that low-scoring game 13-12 last week. Ponies have played a couple of wild games. Remember the overtime game at the beginning of the year with Baylor. They also played a high-scoring game with TCU as well. I'm just looking back on the game last week. For the love of God, I've clicked 5 times with my technology to try to look at the Wake Forest box score, and it wants to give me everything but the Wake Forest box score. All right, in that game, Kevin Jennings only 171 yards in the air. They did not run it that great. They only, from their running backs, they only had what looks like about 20 carries for their running backs besides Kevin Jennings running around, and only got about 80 yards in the game. Wake did a good job defensively. Miami, again, has the superior talent here just one more time. I just think this is a lot of points. Sleepy early start for Miami. SMU, huge moment in the season. I like the Ponies getting 12.5. Just one more time, Jason, before we move on.
I'm with you. I think, again, this is a spot where Miami might escape this. This is going to be a close game, kind of like the Alabama-South Carolina game last week.
Thank you.
That you had.
South Carolina at home getting 12.5, and we were good the entire way on that one. What a crazy finish on that for the fumble by South Carolina, and Alabama getting the go-ahead score. Yeah, the large line has been good to me. The home dog has been good to me over and over again. By the way, the host has hit on 4 home underdogs the last 2 weeks. Pay attention while I say Pony Express, SMU plus 12.5 at home with Miami. All right, you want to advance to Saturday night. You've got another doggy that you like. We're going to go to the Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten has not been good to you, but this is not traditional Big Ten. This is oddity Big Ten with Nebraska USC, that traditional rivalry with USC joining the Big Ten 2 years ago. All right. What drew you to the Huskers plus the 6 here, my friend, on Three Dog Thursday?
Couple things. Obviously, it's a night game in Lincoln. Both these teams come in 6-2. We saw USC a couple weeks ago at Notre Dame. They in the rainy weather up there, back and forth game. Notre Dame ends up pulling away, winning by 10. Lincoln Riley's record as a ranked favorite on the road ain't good at USC in the Big Ten. Matt Rule, who I know you love.
Matt Rule, by the way, is playing a top 25 team, Mr. Powers. I'm just cautioning you. He is 2 for all time against the top 25, and it's literally like 23 or 24 losses. I know he's lost his last 17 in a row against the top 20. USC is not a top 20 team. They're number 23, but he's like 2-23 against the top 25. Just to clarify, and again, if I hear one more time about how he's such a program builder and an ideal coach and put him in the coaching carousel, enough from his agents and his third parties talking up a guy who never beats the top 25 teams on the schedule. Nonetheless, you were undaunted with the Huskers at home. They did get a win, a comeback win last week. Yep. They also beat Cincinnati for their only loss all the way back at the beginning of the year. Cincinnati was not ranked, by the way, when that happened. So this is Nebraska at home, under the lights, national TV, NBC. One more thought.
Could be cold there in Nebraska as we get into November, so the weather will be a little bit of a factor, I would imagine. Again, I like Dylan Raiola. They run the ball pretty decent, not great. They've got to contain the USC running attack. They're 15th in the Big Ten. Nebraska is against the run, so that's a little concerning. But I think they're gonna, if they can control that running attack a little bit. Maeva and Lincoln Riley, when it's balanced, they are really good. But when Maeva has to throw the ball a ton, when everybody knows it's coming, they're not as good. And TJ, Matt Rule has to impress his new bosses at Penn State. He's going to win one of these.
Right. Penn State, which gets rid of James Franklin because he could never win any big games, and is going to bring a guy in who hasn't won a big game. I think since Barack Obama was the president. This is the last time he won a big game. All right. So, again, this is the NBC primetime game. I'm just looking back. Remember, I'm the guy that told you when Nebraska was laying 8.5 against Minnesota. My God, why on the road? I don't know. You're going back to the Big Ten well here. You're going to go Nebraska against a USC team that again came to Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago and got bopped and also has Illinois. They got beat also by Illinois on the last second field goal. So they've come to the Midwest a couple of times and gotten beat. You think Nebraska at least keeps it close? You'll take them.
I think the running game of Nebraska is the difference here. Time of possession a little bit, and I think Raiola will make the necessary throws when they have to make a throw. So I like Nebraska outright too.
All right, Nebraska outright, Jason.
And because a lot of people think that USC is still in the playoff hunt here, if they run the table, they do play Oregon later on, so there is opportunity. You're
gonna get 3, if not 4, Big Ten teams. So not just the teams that are in the championship game. Who's the third or the fourth team lurking? And USC can maybe be in that picture. We'll see.
But they got to run the table, and I don't think they do it.
All right, fair enough. I want to back up to noon, what's actually 10 a.m. Mountain Time due to television on CBS Network TV. So this is going to be Army at Air Force in the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy game. So they have already gotten things underway with the Commander-in-Chief Trophy with Navy beating Air Force. This is Army, who earlier in the year won against Kansas State. This is the same Army team, though, that lost an overtime game in the opener to Tarleton State. They love to run the football. They love to control the clock. They also have a recent loss to North Texas in American Conference play. I mean, this is interesting. Army is in the American Conference, so they would theoretically still be barely alive to be in the race, but this is an out-of-conference game against Air Force out of the Mountain West. It's on the road at Colorado Springs. Air Force has played a lot of wild games, Jason Powers. They played that 51-48 game with UNLV, high scoring, lost the game on a last-second field goal. And looking back at a couple of other games, they've put points on the
Navy
board.
Game. Wasn't the Navy game pretty high scoring?
Yeah, the Navy game I think was as well. Blake Horvath ran it on them a bunch, but the Navy game was 34-31. Good call on that. They beat Wyoming last week in a 24-21 game. They lost a 44-35 game to Hawaii Air Force. They lost a 49-37 game to Boise. So they played a lot of high-scoring games. So Can Army control the clock? Can they slow it down like what they did with the 2 long touchdown drives to beat Avery Johnson and K-State? I believe they can. I believe they will win this game. They have won the last 2 matchups in this series. What's going against me is Air Force has owned them in Colorado Springs. You ready for the stat? 22-5 in the last 27 meetings at the Air Force Academy for Army. They are 5-22 on their end. I think it changes Saturday early in the sleepy start. Look for the Black Knights of the Hudson to control the clock and to get the win. Do you have any other thought here on this as Army looms large later on in the year with Navy?
TJ, you mentioned a 10 a.m. start. The people in the service academies, they get more done before 10 a.m. than most of us get done all day.
I remember the commercials from the military.
So that 10 a.m. is like prime time for them.
Exactly. Man. It's whatever your schedule you're buying. By the way, we need to also say that our friends Price Atkinson and Steve Carney do a great job with the Yards and Stripes Service Academy football podcast. We are showing the video audience the logo of that podcast. Again, Yards and Stripes can be found wherever you get podcasts. It's part of the College Gridiron Coast to Coast podcast feed. Go catch Price and Steve previewing this game. They talk Service Academy football with their guests, their insight, their analysis, Army, Navy, Air Force football every week. Yards and Stripes, wherever you get podcasts. Go find those guys and check them out as they are our brothers here on Three Dog Thursday. All right. We also should tell you about our friends at Ticket Smarter. You see up on the screen the Ticket Smarter mobile app is where we want you to go on the secondary market to get the very best in secondary market tickets for any of these games that we're mentioning, like that Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville at the Jaguar Stadium, at TIAA Bank Field there in Jacksonville. We're going to talk about a slew of other large matchups, the game in Lincoln at Memorial Stadium for USC and Nebraska, any of the biggest games from the SEC to the Big Ten, etc. Ticket Smarter mobile app, and use the promo codes from the Winning Cures Everything platform. WCE10 takes $10 off the order of $100 or more. Again, you're not going to get a great seat to any of these massive games in the SEC or the Big Ten for under $100. Use the promo code WCE10. And if your cost is $300 or more on your order, use WCE20 and take $20 off of your order. Use those codes as much as you want. Again, for college football, the Baseball World Series, the NFL, concerts, use WCE10, WCE20. Think smarter, get in the game. Ticket Smarter, proud sponsor.
Game 6 of the World Series, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday. Friday,
right.
Definitely game 6. Saturday, if necessary, game 7. Use the Ticket Smarter secondary market ticket price, and also that promo code will be good. WCE10 or WCE20 for your World Series tickets. Can you imagine if they get a game 7 in Toronto against Ohtani and the Dodgers? Holy cow. On the ticket price on that
Sunday afternoon in Orchard Park.
That's exactly right for Sunday in the NFL. Again, take advantage of it with Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app. All right, let's get back to the games. Let's get back to what we think. Let's resume. And where are you going next? We have a couple of games remaining that each of us are going to predict. Are you going Big 12 after dark, my friend?
We are going College Game Day in Salt Lake City. After dark, the late night 10:15 game. We saw last week, if you watched the game last week after dark, Colorado came in and got their pants beat off of them. It was 43-0 at the half, I believe, by Utah, which by
the way, we can interject that Coach Prime isn't talking this week about how they were the better team against Utah. He said that 2 or 3 times in his post game. I still think we're the better team. He can't say it when he's down 43-0 to a backup quarterback, by the way, for the Utes and Kyle Whittingham.
Bird Ficklin is his name. Bird,
what a name.
Byrd Ficklin. A name made for the South. That is a name from a Mississippi
novel, a John Grisham novel. William Faulkner. How about Ficklin, the left-hander? I believe at one point completed like 8 passes in a row. They ran the ball well. Utah looking good, but you like the Cincinnati Bearcats who are rolling. Why?
Brendan Sorsby, 20 touchdowns, 1 interception on the year, the
Mm.
Indiana transfer. He left Indiana when Cignetti got there, went to Cincinnati. He's been a great addition to that program. Both these teams come in 6-2. Both of them are 6-2 against the number this year. We don't know the status. Is Ficklin going to play, or is it going to be Devin Dampier?
Well,
for
Utah's
Utah
in some trouble because they listed Devin Dampier as probable on the final Big 12 injury report, and it shows that these injury reports mean nothing because then they announced he was out for the game. How do you go from probable on the Thursday or Friday injury report to out on Saturday? It's like the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. If you practice fully and you're listed as questionable, how do you suddenly go the next day to out from the game? These are shenanigans with the injuries.
Utah is notorious for that because remember last year, every week Cam Rising, everybody thought he was going to play every week, and he never played. So Utah has a reputation for doing this when
Correct.
it comes to the injury reports, Bill Belichick style back in the day.
But you think Sorsby, who's also very good with his legs, I mean, they were impressive against Baylor. I mean, bear in mind, some may be criticizing the Cincinnati win streak at 7 straight wins. Who have they beaten? Look, they won at Kansas.
Yep.
They also won at Iowa State when they were in the top 25, or they beat Iowa State at home when they were in the top 25. Yep. And they handled Baylor last week in that Big 12 matchup. Now you think they'll at least hang in late night, Saturday night in Salt Lake one more time.
2 good numbers here. In the 2 games, you look at Utah's schedule. They've beaten all the teams with losing records. They're 0-2 against anybody with a winning record. Texas Tech went in there, beat them pretty good. And then your game a couple of weeks ago, the Holy War, BYU took care of business. Last 6 games against ranked teams in the month of November for Kyle Whittingham, 0-6.
Ooh, somebody came with a stat. And he's
0-6 versus ranked teams in November. And Saturday is what? November 1st.
And a ranked team in Cincinnati. Again, this is late night. It will be on ESPN late night as Big 12 After Dark. Yep. And you've got Bearcats getting 9 across the key number of 7.
I'll take 9, baby.
Give him those points for that matchup in what is a wild Big 12. We saw Houston beat Arizona State last week. You got Iowa State that looks so good. It's lost 3 games in a row.
The leader in the clubhouse is who? Cincinnati at 5-0.
Cincinnati and BYU right now are the 2 teams that look like they're going to be there at the end. Stay tuned on how that works. You know what? I see your Big Ten hound, and I am going to go with a Big Ten pooch myself. Give me the Big 12. Excuse me, Big 12. I see your Big 12 hound. I'm going Big 12 hound also. Thank you. That is earlier in the day, K-State and Texas Tech. Now the Red Raiders obviously have been impressive all year. The lone loss came against Arizona State a couple of weeks ago, but they have a key injury. Quarterback Will Hammond, who has been playing the last couple of weeks, has torn his ACL, announced out for the year. Also, Baron Morton, the veteran quarterback, he's had a concussion earlier in the year. Yep. He's had an injured calf muscle. Is he going to be 100%? Is he going to be the starter? We don't know this on 3 Dog Thursday. Are they going to have to go to a third quarterback? They can run the ball, Texas Tech, but this is K-State at home, and they're getting too many points here. They whacked Kansas in the Sunflower Showdown last week at KU, 45-17.
Right.
They also have beaten TCU. They have played better football in the last 3 or 4 weeks. They also have a win as well in a wild game over Baylor. So give me, or actually a 1-point loss to Baylor, 35-34. They played better. They played better offensively. I get across the key number of 7. I get 7.5 here for Avery Johnson, the quarterback. Chris Kleiman's defense is improving too. Yep. And with the Texas Tech injury at quarterback, I like the Wildcats here. Do you have a follow-up thought on a second straight Big 12 game that we're talking on 3 Dog Thursday?
Yeah, I would say listen to TJ's Big 12 preview every Saturday on TuneIn Radio. He's the host. I know he won't promote it himself, but I'll do it for you.
I tend to have a little intel on the Big 12. That's why I kind of went Holy War earlier in the year. I had a West Virginia in the backyard brawl earlier in the year. Yep. I just smell K-State. I liked your doggy too. I let you have Cincinnati. I would have been fine with taking Cincinnati and letting you take Kansas State. You take Cincinnati. I'll take K-State here in the matchup. This is on Fox Saturday afternoon, 2:30 Central Time from Manhattan here for the matchup with K-State and Texas Tech. That is my third and final underdog. Anything else?
I was going to say, you
here?
got to figure that Joey McGuire is going to play it a little closer to the vest, especially if Baron Morton is hobbled or hampered a little bit, even with the concussion in the calf. Not going to be a wide open game, because I could see this being a 24-17 kind of game or a 21-17, low score, because Texas Tech's going to lean on their defense. This is not going to be a high-flying game, I don't think.
Again, K-State's defense got riddled by North Dakota at the beginning of the year, and they barely won. And then Army put those long drives on them in the second half and killed the clock.
Yep.
They've played better defensively.
Yes.
Let's see if that continues. This is a step up in competition. Cameron Dickey can run the ball for Texas Tech. He had a 200-yard rush game back a couple of games ago against the Jayhawks himself. Yep. Stay tuned on Texas Tech, K-State, 3:30 Eastern time on Fox.
The hook.
That is the fight. Yeah, the hook, 7.5 for my final underdog. All right, in our remaining moments, we like to go over the honorable mention and roll call a couple of other games. Did we think when the season began that Penn State would be a 20.5 or 21-point underdog against Ohio State? They are. They fired James Franklin. Terry Lewis is the interim coach. They lost the 1-point game to Iowa a couple of weeks ago. They've had an off week. Ohio State obviously rolling. Justin Sayin, the quarterback. Jeremiah Smith's going to be an outstanding NFL receiver down the road. They've run the ball well. Buckeyes 7 for 7 ATS so far this year. Large line. Thoughts, Jason? Early start, Ohio State, Penn State.
I just don't know how Penn State's going to score. This Ohio State defense is the best defense in the country, led by Matt Patricia, the former Patriots, part of the Belichick clan there in New England. I just don't know how Penn State's going to score enough at all to be in this game. Backup quarterback for Penn State. You mentioned Julian Sayin. He's playing really well for them. They're going to, again, will they score 40 against Penn State? I doubt it, but this will be a methodical, slow death for Penn State. Probably a 31-7 kind of game, something like that. I just don't see how Penn State's going to score more than a couple times at most.
Again, big noon kickoff pregame show there, and then this is the big noon game on Fox, Penn State and Ohio State to start the day. We both agree the Buckeyes likely roll. Stay tuned. Again, both teams off the bye week, so stay tuned for that matchup. Speaking of rolling, Vanderbilt is rolling. Got the great win after game day was there, low-scoring game. They end up beating Missouri. The quarterback, Prabula, had the horrible fractured leg injury. Diego Pavia Pavia led Vanderbilt to the win. Best start they've had since 1950 for Vanderbilt. Texas won a wild comeback in overtime, down 17 to get the game tied, and won at Starkville against Mississippi State. Arch Manning injured at the end of that overtime. Don't know about his status midweek. Concussion for him. Will he clear the protocol? Quick thought here. This is a road game at Austin early. Again, it's an 11 a.m. start for this game. Any thought from you?
I would say be careful here for Vanderbilt. I know everybody thinks Vandy, and Texas is down. Texas hasn't had a home game in a while. If Manning plays, that number probably goes up to 4 or 5 points, I would guess, if he's declared healthy on Friday. The kid Caldwell, give the kid credit for Texas through the fade ball in overtime.
Tremendous throw.
So, again, be careful here. I know people are going to think Vanderbilt's going to beat Texas. Be careful here. When the odds makers in Vegas make Texas a favorite.
Without Arch Manning,
they might know what they're talking. Be careful here if you like Vandy.
Another great story is Georgia Tech. We'll wrap with them. NC State getting 5.5 at home in Raleigh against Georgia Tech. Best start since Bobby Dodd was the coach. They play in Bobby Dodd Stadium. The legendary coach. 8-0 start for Brent Key. They've run it well. Haynes King has been banged up as the quarterback, but they run it well. Any possible hint of an upset here? Night game at Raleigh. I know NC State's given up a ton of points and been beaten badly by Notre Dame and by somebody else that clobbered them recently.
Pitt killed them.
Pitt killed them too. Any thought on the Wolfpack and the Yellow Jackets?
As long as Haynes King is healthy and in the game, I think they'll figure out a way to get it done. Will it maybe look pretty? Maybe not. But again, NC State has proven they can give up a lot of points. Georgia Tech can score points here. This season reminds me so much of 1990 for Georgia Tech. under the radar. Nobody thinks they're very good. They're just sliding along in the ACC. They got a couple games coming down the road here. You got potentially Pitt later in the year, potentially for the berth. But I like Georgia Tech here to get it done and march on.
Again, this will be on ESPN, 7:30 Eastern time. You mentioned Georgia Tech's remaining schedule. If they take care of this with NC State, they have Boston College, who's bad, then Pitt before the Georgia game. And Brent Key's name, real quick, Jason's going to be mentioned in the coaching carousel to maybe get another opportunity. Stay tuned.
He, like Clark Lee, went to that school, so that's going to have a lot to pull.
Large.
Pay him. Take a lot to get them to leave because those
pay
guys
him and keep him there.
Yeah.
By the way, we should also mention for Mr. Powers, if you like what you're seeing and hearing, go find his Florida Football Insiders podcast. He'll have more on the Florida-Georgia game for this week. Don't call it the cocktail party game. Again, Miami at SMU. Florida State's back with Wake Forest, et cetera, et cetera. Jason, we encourage everybody to go check out Florida Football Insiders podcast. Search it where you get podcasts. It is part of the College Gridiron Coast to Coast podcast feed, but just search Florida Football Insiders to find more. You want to plug anything else that you got coming up on the episode for this week?
Again, we'll talk the USF Memphis recap there. Again, I'll give you. I already gave a comment about Alex Golesh. Again, his name's in the mix for some of these jobs. So lots to do, and still lots of permutation, especially for Miami, playoff-wise, still in the mix.
Oh, absolutely. And is Mike Norvell going to survive? I mean, they're coming off the bye week, and if they're not very good against Wake Forest, the heat gets turned up even more on that situation. And stay tuned. Jason always has great guests, great insight. Florida Football Insiders podcast. All right, let's roll call it one more time. You are taking Florida, and you're getting 7.5 in the game in Jacksonville with Georgia Saturday afternoon as underdog number 1. I go against Miami. Speaking of the Sunshine State, I'll take SMU. Too many points here at home for them, getting 12.5 in that ACC matchup. Again, you love Nebraska. I'm hiding my eyes for the video audience while you take Matt Rule against USC. Something's got to give. Either Matt Rule finds a way to win, or USC comes to the Central Time Zone and finally gets a win for them that they would need in that matchup. You're getting 6 points with Nebraska Saturday night. I back up to earlier in the day in the early start in Colorado Springs. Give me Army just to win the game and the 1.5 in the Commander-in-Chief's Trophy game against Air Force. You'll take Big 12 after dark, Cincinnati plus the 9 with Utah as your third underdog. Can the Bearcats win an 8th straight game if they get it? I'll take K-State earlier in the day with Texas Tech, getting 7.5 for my third underdog. 2 Big 12 underdogs close it out. Other than that, do we have anything else that we need to cover here on the program on Three Dog Thursday, or are we pretty well good, Jason Powers?
You get a bye week from the NFL, a little home weekend.
Little weekend to watch all the football, the end of the World Series, be around with a family. Maybe you and I got to get back to the golf course this weekend. 4 left. We shall
the alligators in all the raccoons got too many of my balls yesterday.
We love that. Again, we love hitting the golf ball. We love talking underdogs. Thank you again to Gary Seegers, the Winning Cures Everything platform. Again, thousands and thousands and thousands of you partaking. Do us a favor, comment below this video, interact. We interact with you. Comment below the video with your thoughts on underdogs, on the ones that we pick, the ones you like. We love that. Hit the like button. Subscribe to Gary's channel. He's crossed 15,000 subscribers. It's a great platform for college football fans. Tremendous content and volume of content. And we are just part of that. We are just one segment of that. Of the Winning Cures Everything platform here on YouTube and winningcureseverything.com. Jason, have a great weekend. Good luck with the underdogs. Thank you for the time here as always.
Anytime.
We love Jason Powers. I'm merely TJ Rives. The podcast audience, make sure you're following, subscribing, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. Come find the video. And again, thank you for being with us on Three Dog Thursday on the Winning Cures Everything platform. Woof, woof.
Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Subscribe, leave a review or comment. Follow at Gary WCE on X, and check out the web store,